I want to make more sales, but I'm not sure I've got the right people in my audience. This is something that I hear a lot. And so in this episode of the Becoming an Online Sales Queen podcast, we're going to be talking about the customer journey, and in particular, my 4-step V.I.N.O framework, which walks you through the 4 stages of the customer journey that you would have to take somebody on for them to say yes to your offer. So if you are returning back to the show, welcome. And if you're new here, huge, big welcome. So glad that you found us. If you're somebody that loves to watch video training as well as listen, then you might want to know that we also stream this show onto my YouTube channel. So head below into the show notes and you'll get the link for that. And if you are going to head over to YouTube, do give it a like and a subscribe, because I am very much trying to grow my subscribers over on YouTube. So, in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about the 4 different stages that somebody would need to go on with you if they're going to say yes to your offer. And these would be the same 4 stages if it was a £27 offer versus a 10 grand offer. Yes, the stages are the same no matter how big the investment is to buy your offer. And so let's dive into stage 1, which is the V for visibility, right? So this framework spells out the word V.I.N.O, V-I-N-O. The V stands for visibility. The first step we have to take somebody on is that they have to be aware of who you are. Nobody can buy from you if they don't first know who you are. So a question that you want to be asking yourself on a daily basis as part of your morning routine maybe is, how am I being visible today? How am I showing up today? Now, that doesn't mean that every day you've got to go into full glam hair and makeup and be visible every single day, because let's be honest, who wants to do that, right? Like, we don't always want to get glammed up every day and put full on hair and makeup and get, ready for work every day. Some days you might want to sit in your trackies with no makeup on, and that is fine. But what I don't want you to do is spend all of that day beating yourself up because you're not being visible. What you need to do is record video in advance, make content in advance, have lots of B-roll in advance so that you've always got something that you can share where you're on video, so that you feel like you're being visible even when you're sat with your trackies on and a mum bun in with no makeup on at all. And trust me, I have days like that as well. Okay. So the first step on the customer journey is us being visible. The second step is the I for interest. Yeah. So we're spelling V.I.N.O, visibility, I for interest. And this is where you are building interest from your audience. Okay. So they first have to be able to see you. Then they have to be interested in who you are and what you've got to say. That means sharing content that educates, content that leads, content that shows you as an authority, content that shares customer stories, people that you've worked with, successes that they've had. It could be content that showcases your story, who you are, where you've come from, where you're going, what your vision is. You have to be interesting. Now, the sad truth is, and I'm going to be very gentle and loving when I say this to you, that if you feel that your content isn't generating interest from your audience, there is something wrong with your content. Okay? There is something wrong with your content. If you don't feel that people are interested in what you've got to say, then you need to change what you've got to say. Okay? You need to position it in a way that commands more attention, commands more authority. Doesn't mean that what you're saying isn't good. It's just maybe the way that you're positioning it. So you might need to work on your hooks. You might need to, the reality is, right, this is a trend that we've been seeing over the last few months. Negative hooks often work better than positive ones. So what I mean by that is, rather than you say, here's 5 ways that you could get fitter in January, rather than that, it could be 3 reasons that you're not fit enough. Like, the negativity tends to be more hooky, if that's a word. So it could be using negative words like stop. Stop doing this if you want to be this. Yeah. Stop using positive hooks if you want to attract more viewers. So think about words that you could use that imply that something's wrong rather than something is right. Now, that's just psychology of our audiences right now. Maybe the trend will shift again, but at the moment, there is definitely a trend where negative hooks work better than positive ones. So it's not that what you're talking about is not good enough. It's that the way that you're sharing it might look and sound like other people. It might be just a little bit bland, maybe. It might just blend into the noise of social media. So think about ways that you can be more commanding, more authoritative, really speak into your place as a leader in your industry. Okay. So the I is for interest. The N is for nurture. Now, nurture is where we build trust. It's where we build true connection and relationship. And only when we've nurtured a true relationship can we expect somebody to say yes to our offer. So we have to nurture relationships of trust, but you can't nurture somebody that you don't know, right? You can't nurture a relationship with somebody that's not there. So we have to be visible. We have to get interest. We have to get people following us. We have to get people interested in our content. And then we start to nurture. So another question for your morning routine is, how am I nurturing relationships today? Am I having conversations with people today? Am I jumping on sales calls? Am I in the voice notes, in the DMs today? Like, am I on camera today doing video in my stories? How can you nurture relationships comes back to how you can show more of who you are. Really show who you are authentically behind the scenes, as well as, front of house stuff. So really thinking about, do my audience know me? Do they really know? Like, could your audience tell you the name of your dog, the name of your child? Could your audience say what town you live in? If they can't, maybe you're not sharing enough behind the scenes. Yeah. So like really allowing your audience to get to know you will help you to nurture relationships of trust. And, I can use the example of when I first invested in my mentor. Her content was nurturing me for probably for about a year. She maybe didn't know that that was what was happening, but that is what was happening. I was stalking her in the shadows for about a year before I made that investment. And actually, I did invest in a low ticket offer with her. It was a £97 offer. And I made that investment for 3 days with her inside a little mini program. And that mini program nurtured me to a whole other level. So that could be the equivalent of you running a masterclass, running a 3-day, 5-day challenge. Are you doing these things to nurture relationships, or are you just putting content out there and expecting somebody to say yes? You just putting content out there and expecting somebody to send you an inquiry, when what really needs to happen is they need to go on this customer journey with you of visibility, seeing you, gaining interest in what you've got to say, hitting the follow button, seeing your content regularly, and then being nurtured by you. Being nurtured, knowing, your vision, understanding who you are behind closed doors. Nurture as in, knowing what offers you sell. Are you nurturing relationships? And very often when people come to me and say, Rach, I'm doing all the things, like I'm sharing content every day. I'm sending emails to my list. I'm showing up on video. Like, very often what the problem really is not that you can't sell or you don't know how to sell, is that the person isn't nurtured enough. You haven't nurtured them enough. And so by dialing up on the nurture, you stand a much better chance then of getting the yes when it comes to the offer. And a stat that I share quite often is that it takes between 7 and 21 touch points for somebody to feel enough trust to come and work with you. Okay, so I don't want you to give up if sales sometimes feels hard, or lead gen is just not really feeling easy for you. It just may be that you need to nurture more. So don't pull back. Don't start getting bored and frustrated and annoyed and overwhelmed and start pulling back. That is the last thing you need to be doing. What you need to be doing is becoming more visible. Yeah, nurturing relationships more, speaking to camera more. And that will nurture people to the point where they are ready to say yes to an offer. Okay. So the V.I.N.O framework: V for visibility, I for interest, N for nurture, and the O is for your offer. You always must work back from your offer when it comes to the content that you're sharing. If you're sharing content that isn't got anything to do with your offer and isn't got anything to do with the problem that your offer solves or the way that it solves it or the person who wants it solved, then your content and your offer are misaligned. And what you need to be thinking about is aligning your content and your offer together so that people can go on this customer journey with you, and you're gaining interest by talking about content that relates to the offer. And then when you share the offer, they're more likely to say yes. Okay. So daily questions that you could be asking are things like, how am I getting visible today? How am I gaining interest and nurturing relationships today? And how am I positioning my offer today? Now, when you're asking those questions daily to yourself, it will become very natural to you to align the visibility, the content, the nurture content, and the offer together. Yeah. So if I was enrolling you into my mastermind and that was the offer, but all the content that I was sharing and the nurtured content that I was creating was all about a completely different offer, then I'm going to get far less yeses to my mastermind offer because there's no alignment in the customer journey. Okay. So I want you to take from this episode that you need alignment in your customer journey and you need consistency of that customer journey so that the 7 to 21 touch points can build over time and somebody then gets to say yes when you position your offer. Okay. So think about those questions. Think about introducing those into your morning routine. How am I getting visible today? How am I gaining interest? How am I nurturing my audience today? And what's the offer that I'm going to invite them to say yes to? And is there alignment in that whole customer journey? Okay. That's it for today's episode. I'm going to leave it here. I will drop a little summary into the show notes for you of what we've talked about, and I will see you for the next episode. Good luck using my V.I.N.O framework. I know that this framework works. And like I said at the beginning, the simplicity and the foundational aspect of this framework mean that you should probably bookmark this episode and come back to it once a quarter, because it's very easy to get sidetracked and to go off and make our sales journey really complex when really it just comes back to these 4 things. Am I being visible? Am I getting interest? Am I nurturing relationships? Am I positioning an offer? If you can do those 4 things, you will be a sales queen. Okay. So good luck using it. Enjoy it. And if you've got any questions, I'll see you in my DMs. And yeah, I'll see you for the next episode.